Pearson, and this is the Outlet Forum with my esteemed co-host Chris Camello. What up, Chris?
Only two words to say. And they were the same two words my vice principal used at my high school. Rollin' Thunder.
You just have to start it off with that, right?
Yes,
Well,
sir.
thank you for watching and welcome to the show, the Outlet Forum. We got everything NBA coming to you guys tonight with a special guest, Chuck Mockler will be joining the show in just a few minutes. We'll get into Halliburton's epic stat line and that 3-1 Indiana lead over the New York Knicks. Where will Giannis land? Austin Reeves get paid $30 million? We'll be talking about all of that. But first, we got to get into this OKC belt to ass whooping
Mm.
over the Minnesota Timberwolves. They win a great series. I thought it was a great series. Some of these games weren't really competitive, but it was a great series for me in my eyes because I thought what the OKC Thunder did was absolutely brilliant from the coaching to the stars to the role players. They took it to the Minnesota Timberwolves and makes it look like they didn't even belong on the same floor as them, especially in this game five, 124 to 94. The game wasn't even really that close because the Timberwolves only scored 9 points, I believe, in the first quarter, and the OKC Thunder just took it from there and rolled them quarter over quarter over quarter. So, Chris, what does this make for the OKC Thunder going into the NBA Finals? Their first since 2012,
Well,
actually, when James Harden and Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant uh, made a great final, but didn't fare well in the finals. This one, they're actually favored. I think they're minus 600 currently. You have to bet $600 just to win 100 that they'll win the championship. Luckily for me, I bet it after game four of the last series at minus 135. So got a pretty nice ticket there. Chris, what did you make of the OKC Thunder? I'll give you the floor. What does it say about them?
well, I'm going to keep this snappy on it. And I like how you referenced the old guard of how they got there now 13 years ago. And it's not so dissimilar, right? Homegrown talent, basically. I know SGA was acquired. Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams, almost on par with what Durant, Westbrook, and James Harden brought to that team. Dynamic head coach 13 years ago in Scott Brooks, dynamic head coach now with Mark Daigneault. Both of them were coaches of the years at this juncture in their careers. However, Chaz, there is one constant with this Oklahoma City Thunder team, and that is the great Sam Presti. I understand that there's been a lot of criticism. Presti never got it done. He hoarded picks. He was too conservative. He didn't know how to build and blah, blah, blah. All of that is nonsense. This guy has shown what he's capable of doing when he has the right assets around him and when they are able to pick the right assets and develop these young players. It took a while for them to get here, but not really. They were still competitive at the end of the Westbrook era. The Paul George, Carmelo Anthony thing didn't work out as well, but they were still going to the playoffs until they finally did a total gut check. We've got to pull this interior out and rebuild this house. Trade Paul George, trade Russell Westbrook. We got to start over. And within 5 years, they were back into the playoffs. I believe 4 years, actually, they were a play-in team. 5 years, they were the number one seed last year. And now this year, on the 6th year, post Russell Westbrook in that era, they are Western Conference champions. And just like with Westbrook and Durant, they have another MVP and now a Western Conference Finals MVP in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So Sam Presti, marvelous job. Once again, Mark Daigneault's done a terrific job. And the Thunder as a team was just dominant. They completely outclassed Minnesota, and they have proven a lot of people wrong. Those 68 wins were not a fluke. The 2 losses in the postseason were not a fluke. And they are a team right now 4 wins away, and I'm pretty sure they're going to get them to getting their first NBA championship under the moniker of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Congrats.
I'm gonna take it in a different direction really quick, Chris, because obviously we can crown SGA. He's the Western Conference MVP, Western Conference Finals MVP. Got that trophy, passed it off to his teammates. Love to see it. He's focused on 4 more wins. Job's not finished, obviously. as everybody would say, quoting Kobe back to his 2009 speech
That's
over
even
the
better.
Orlando Magic. Uh, for me, Anthony Edwards was not. We'll get into the superstar combo towards the end of the show in a little bit, but Anthony Edwards for me didn't play up to his standards, in my opinion. But I know this loss really isn't on him. A better team just beat the team in the Minnesota Timberwolves, and I believe that Mark Daigneault ran circles around Chris Finch. Chris Finch could only do so much, and also it was just a bad matchup. Same way the Wolves were a bad matchup for the Lakers, the Wolves were just the Thunder were just a bad matchup for the Wolves. So for me, I don't really put too much stock into any individual like Anthony Edwards. I don't think he played up to the standard that he has set, especially for himself last year coming into this year and what we know him to be, especially playing with Team USA this past summer and winning a gold medal and getting the respect and garnering the respect from his peers the way he has. But for me, this is just all about a team just playing absolutely out of their minds and being focused on a goal and proving that they're not a fluke. Um, we'll talk a
Great
little
point.
bit more about OKC, but I want to get into this other topic really quick, Chris, about the game last night with Tyrese
Mhm.
Haliburton because
Incredible.
he put on an absolute show, man. I mean,
Yeah.
this guy, it's the first time anybody's had this stat line, a 30-point triple double with 15 assists and no turnovers. He's the first person
Yeah.
to ever do it in any game, whether it be a playoff game, regular season, finals, whatever you may have it. What did you make of his performance? And does that really vault him into a different stratosphere with his team and what the expectations for the team are for the Pacers moving forward? Or is this something that he's just going to continue to do and the team just has a ceiling? Because the Knicks, although they're facing elimination, they are pretty good when facing elimination, especially at home.
For sure. Superb performance last night from Tyrese Haliburton. Indiana, the one thing that they've been able to do in these playoffs is respond well after a loss. We saw that in the first round against Milwaukee. We saw that in the second round against Cleveland. And we saw that last night against the New York Knicks. Haliburton is showing, that he is a big deal. Haliburton is showing he is a gamer. Haliburton is showing he does not give in to the pressure. I understand there's a lot of people like, oh, Haliburton this, he's overrated, he's this and that. Does he have a little bit of an attitude at times, a little bit of a cockiness? Yeah, but who cares? I love that. I'd rather have that than someone who's going to fold under the pressure, James Harden. I'd rather have that than someone who doesn't have a ton to speak on in their career. I hate to say this, Damian Lillard, as far as postseason success goes. So here's this guy trying to make a name for himself, and he's not just doing it with his lips and his mouth. He's doing it with his play on the court. Yeah. That was an excellent performance last night, and one that was a pivotal game. This wasn't just, hey, we're up 3-0 and we got pressure. We don't have pressure on us. No, they lose that game, Chaz. We're talking a much different story today. He made sure last night they didn't lose, and he was like, okay, they got us last night. I'm going to get you back tonight. And, of course, he didn't do it alone. Siakam was outstanding, 30 points. Andrew Nembhard, he struggled a little bit, but Aaron Nesmith was great. Miles Turner was early. Good. Benedict Mathurin was really solid off the bench, gave them a big punch in the arm. But this team goes as Haliburton goes, and what he's showing is I could beat you in a lot of different ways. I could beat you in my playmaking because I'm going to usually make the right play and get my teammates involved, or I could beat you and drop 30 on your ass when you least expect it. How do you want it tonight, dog? That's Tyrese Haliburton, and I love that. And the 0 turnovers to me mean he is consistently making the right plays and putting the ball where his teammates can make a play for themselves or for others. So shout out to Hallie. And of course, it didn't hurt that Pops was back in the building, Chaz. Haliburton was back.
Oh man. These highlights that I just showed, I mean, I could look at them forever. That shot over Karl Anthony Towns was absolutely money. Let's
awesome.
bring somebody else into the fold. Our special guest, Chuck Mockler of the Clips and Drips podcast. Chris, go ahead and introduce our boy as we bring him on here.
Well, I think you just did, but I'll do it again. So Chuck and I met, I think 6-7 years ago when we were both covering the Clippers. We used to sit up in the 300 section, and both of our noses would promptly bleed when the Clippers were taking on Denver. But he is the co-host of the Clips and Drips podcast. He's also a longtime Clipper reporter and Clipper fan. So we do show it's like when the red and the blue bandana are tied together and we're walking down LA together. That is what we have with a couple of Laker fans now joined by a Clipper fan, the great Chuck Mockler. Chuck, thank you for joining us tonight, man.
Thank you for having me. Was that a training day reference you made just now to the closed casket line? That was impressive. But thanks for having me on a night that is yet another bittersweet night in terms of the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander Clippers connection in the fandom. Yeah, thanks for having me.
No doubt.
For sure.
No
and
doubt,
you know
man.
what, Chaez, since, go ahead. Why don't you kick us off, Chaez?
Yeah, thanks for joining the pod, man, and hanging out with us tonight. I really want to ask you first of all, what are you making of these playoffs so far? I know some of the teams, there's already a little bit of rumblings with small market teams like Indiana or Minnesota or OKC being in the finals. Obviously, New York isn't a small market, but OKC's already punched their ticket, and Indiana's one game away. Is this good for the league? Do you think the league likes it as far as the parity? And what do you personally make of it?
I think the league probably hates it, would be my best guess. They want, ideally any league, if it's, remember when it was probably going to be, Yankees Dodgers was huge for the MLB. The NFL puts a little more respect on smaller market teams because they have historically a better standing than NBA teams, I think. But I think for fans of the game, it's awesome. I think that if you live in a larger market, maybe you don't get to watch Indiana. Maybe if you're a West Coast, even if you're in California, maybe you don't watch OKC that much because both of these teams are in the central time zone, which is kind of funny. But I think for the league itself, I think it's good. There's going to be people overseas who love Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who plays for Oklahoma City, which I don't know if you've been to Oklahoma City. It's not that nice.
It's not.
It's not. And I love it. I love seeing different styles of basketball represented in the at the highest level, right? Like we have the Pacers who play at breakneck speed and seem to be this team of destiny. You have the Thunder who play, it's one of the better defenses we've maybe ever seen. That will, who knows about that, but they're definitely in the conversation. So I think for basketball as a whole, it's good. I think from a revenue perspective, the NBA is probably a little bummed, but I don't know. I'm really looking forward to the battle of probably the smallest markets we'll see in the final in a very long time in any North American sport.
And Chris, before you go really quick, there's a quick stat that I just wanted to drop because I thought this was actually telling in terms of what we're going to see in the league moving forward. Teams that are taxpayers normally make the finals. And Oklahoma City Thunder and the Indiana Pacers would be the first NBA finals since the luxury tax was in effect where neither team was a taxpayer. At least one team was a taxpayer in every NBA finals where the luxury tax was in effect. Overall, 26 of 44 teams in the NBA finals since the luxury tax was in effect have been taxpayers. 16 of the last 22 champions in the luxury tax have been taxpayers as well. So the fact that teams that are not taxpayers can both end up in the finals speaks volumes, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's the Thunder have such a unique situation. And like you mentioned, Chris, you talked about Presti. Presti played this perfectly, not to get all alliteration with it. But they had one large situation break their way, which was the Clippers trade for Shai, which is great. Indiana also, this narrative that Haliburton is a front runner, I thought was very funny because the man was drafted by the Kings and then they've just decided to kind of foolishly trade him. So it's like he wasn't really he didn't drive any of this. So the taxpayer thing is crazy though. I wonder, man, with all the new apron stuff, that's probably going to hold for a long time, right?
For a while.
Like, that's
I would say so. Yeah, and Chuck, obviously you've been alluding to it, but I'm glad you didn't actually give your full take until I got this question out. You and I covered Shea when he was a rookie. That was my last full season covering the Clippers, was in 2018, 2019. And obviously everyone's going to say, oh, the Clippers made a foolish deal, right? But at the time, you were getting Paul George and you were getting Kawhi Leonard to sign on the line that is dotted, to quote Alec Baldwin from Glengarry Glen Ross. Let me ask you this. It's a two-part question. Did you think he could get to this point? Or did you just think he would be a borderline all-star player? And the second part is he in the conversation for being the face of the league? Or should he be in the conversation of being in the face of the league? So two-part question on that.
I mean, I don't think I'll go to the first question first. I don't think maybe the most optimistic Clippers fan thought this man will be MVP. Like isn't he the first 10th pick to ever be MVP or something like that? Like the overwhelming majority. Yeah, like the overwhelming majority. We thought he was going to be great. Like we were like, oh, like he's probably going to be very good. I also don't think that if he stays with the Clippers, I don't think there's any way he becomes the MVP. I think he's very good, obviously. I'm not discrediting his talent, but he's not in a situation to be the guy for that. He is the franchise in OKC. And I don't I don't know if he gets to the same level of notoriety. Not that he would be low. He would still, it's just, I think it would be different. We've also seen how the Clippers have managed young talent recently, and that hasn't been incredibly good. So,
nope.
Right. Like, so, I mean, it's a huge loss.
Terrence Mann.
Yeah. Hey, he's a pretty good six man.
He was, but he never was able to get. No, so I'm agreeing with your point that because they were in this weird win now mode, they haven't developed the young talent as well as you would have liked. So sorry to interrupt that. I just want to throw that in.
You're good. And that is a source of angst for a lot of Clippers fans. I'm sure we'll get into that. But second part of the question, is he the face of the league? I think I like when there's multiple. I think there's a handful of guys, maybe not a handful, in that tier who are competing for it. And I like that. I like that we have Anthony Edwards versus Shea, versus Luka. LeBron is still in the mix, which is very funny, considering he's very old. But
Giannis.
Yeah. You have so many guys. I think we're past this era where one guy who wins 3 chips in a row, very clearly he is the face of the league, right? Like the way that the CBA works, the way that team construction works, the Celtics are going to have to break their team up most likely with all the luxury tax and stuff like that. So I think having this battle of guys who are competing for face of the league, Shea and Anthony Edwards have the advantage because they're still one franchise guys. This is this one franchise they've been with. And I think that goes a little further than it used to when it comes to face of the league stuff. But I'll tell you what, an MVP, a conference finals MVP, and if the Thunder win it, who's probably going to be finals MVP? You're making a pretty good case with those 3 accolades.
A little bit, De Niro, a little bit.
It's hard to argue if he does that, if he has that treble, I guess.
I'm going to switch gears for a second. I know we got the finals, Indiana, OKC. Don't leave out the Knicks. I think the Knicks are going to take game 5, by the way, handily, I might add.
I agree.
But
I don't know about handily, but I agree.
I think so. I think they're going to do what they on absolute fire, right?
Yeah.
So I think they're going to do a little bit of what they did to Boston in game 6. Indiana just is going to take their foot off the gas, in my opinion. But I'd be remiss if I didn't ask at least one Laker question, given what's over my left-hand shoulder here. The report is now that Austin Reeves not only is the Lakers' best asset, but he's going to command about $30 million a year being a starter and being a borderline all-star player. But he's possibly the best chip. Will the Lakers more than likely trade AR or give him the $30 million extension or raise that he, in my opinion, deserves.
So I like that you add the deserve part because they've done such a good job with Austin Reeves and his development. It's incredible. That was a snipe on your front office's part. I don't think you can trade Austin Reeves. He's so good. He fills a role that you guys need and would be cheap is a relative term, obviously, as the NBA goes, but the cap goes up every year. If you can lock a guy in like Austin Reeves at this age, I think you got to lock him in. And then you guys, I mean, you have what? You have a tradable first and then like 5 swaps that you can trade. Like, make the move for the center. I think keeping Austin Reeves, because if you keep Austin Reeves,
first, I think.
Oh, there you go. So if you
firsts.
keep Austin Reeves and you line his contract up with Luka, like, that's a nice. Those are very complimentary players right there. I think I don't hope y'all keep him, obviously. But I hope for your sake that you keep him, because I think fans would also be pissed off. He's a funny kind of homegrown Lakers player, like, you know what I mean? Like, he fills a void. He wants to win. He's competitive. I don't think y'all trade him, because I don't think also, like, what would you take for Austin Reeves? Because that's big.
You would have to get a rotational, not a rotation. You'd have to get a starter, a top tier big man or a top tier wing defender, 3-and-D guy. But I don't think you're going to get him. So, and also, don't you wish you still had a player like Caruso on the team, who was also homegrown, who's headed to the NBA Finals as we speak? Like, maybe read the room a little bit and understand that you might want to hold on to these guys, especially if they're fan favorites.
And let me just say this too about Luka. People were trying to say, well, can Luka and Reeves coexist? Last I checked, Luka coexisted pretty well with Jalen Brunson. They went to the 2022 conference finals together. And last I checked, almost a year ago to the day, these guys were the ones hoisting up the Western Conference trophy crown, the Western Conference championship, him and Kyrie Irving. So Luka has shown he could play with another ball dominant guard. And the thing about Reeves is he's not necessarily ball dominant, at least not to those guys' level, meaning Brunson and Kyrie. So he could play off the ball. Austin Reeves is whatever I need him to be. But here's the problem. How can you afford all of these guys when you have 2 or 3 needs, blatant needs on this Laker team? I think that's where I get over that's where I get out. But I do like the fact that we'd recognize Austin Reeves' value. Speaking of value, Chuck, we'd be remiss if we don't take it down the 110 freeway down to Inglewood, the new home of the Clippers, and talk a little bit about their offseason needs. Now, I've been reading, I don't know if these reports are nonsense. Who knows? It could be you floating this stuff out there.
It's not me. I'll tell you right now.
Chuck, we have fun on this show, man.
Yeah.
But I like
Thank God it's not
you.
Hold on, or is he pulling a Nico Harrison, Chaz? It's not me.
Yeah.
No, it's not you.
Yeah. No, but as what I've read recently, Drew Holiday, as of today, I read about Drew Holiday, LaMelo Ball, which I think Lou Williams was floating out there. 11 Pepper Lou was floating out there, and John Collins, a stretch 4, good athletic player, has kind of become a forgotten man in Utah. Question I have for you is another 2-parter. 1, is there any truth to that? And 2, to any of those rumors, and 2, where do you think the Clippers should go with their offseason plans?
So the thing that's funny about rumors and the Clippers is, like, the Clippers front office itself is incredibly tight-lipped. Like, you're not going to hear stuff from Lawrence Frank. You know what I mean? Like, he's never going to really, they do a good job of keeping a tight-lipped ship, be that with injury news, be that with who they want to pick up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What we do know is that Lawrence Frank's the only one who does an exit interview, because he's the only one who has to. And they've talked about how their books are going to really open up after the 26-27 season. So if you're a new Clippers fan, I hope you liked what happened last year, because you're seeing the same thing next year. Yes, that's what happens when you draft 6 picks. I mean, LaMelo, like, Of those, so John Collins is a guy who is, I think every year he's been in the league, he's been, should the Clippers trade for John Collins? Should we try and get this athletic four? He would be, of these three, the one that I would prefer, I guess, because Drew Holiday is a little older. They don't need anyone who's a seasoned vet anymore. Next year's kind of the last ride of it being like the 2-1-3 Kawhi thing. LaMelo is oft injured. His contract just started too, so I don't know if the Hornets would want what the Clippers can offer, which is like
because you got to make the salaries work too. Yeah,
it's literally like 1 first-round pick, Norm Powell and Bogdan Bogdanovic. And I know they're a poorly run franchise, but I don't think they would take that pick unless they draft right. Like, because they're not getting anyone in the draft who's better than LaMelo Ball and who's already under contract. Like the fact that he's under contract and the cap always goes up, I don't know about that. I think like in the athletic four that has been really what the Clippers have been missing, I think would be the most likely. As far as what they're going to do, I don't think it's going to be a whole hell of a lot. They're basically, Harden, the overwhelming scuttlebutt is that Harden's going to opt out, sign a contract that lines up with Kawhi. They'd have 2 more years together.
Yeah.
You give James like 2 for
Well, he
70.
signed. Well, he signed 2 for. Hold on. He signed 2 for $60 last summer, so it would have to be at least. You're right. I would say 65 or 70, and I suppose Harden could give you somewhat of a hometown discount, but it would. I mean, what are we talking here? $5 million.
But
that
also,
he would have to cut?
Think of all the money he's left on the table throughout his career. He's left a considerable amount of money on the table. And so I don't think he's interested. I think the deal will be closer to 2 for 40 or 2 for 80, excuse me. So 40 per year.
Jesus.
I know. But the other thing is the Clippers are stuck, right? Because they've said explicitly, they're not tanking. They have no reason to tank. Tanking sucks. Imagine if your team was tanking and you didn't.
Yeah, because you don't even own your picks, so you have to try as much as you can.
Like
you have to exactly, absolutely.
The free agency class this year is bad. Like it's not. You know what I mean? Like it's not going to be really popping off like that. The only guy they have on the books in 27, 28, I'm pretty sure is Zoo, who they have to keep. Zoo's not going anywhere. He is the franchise center. They probably could get multiple picks for Zoo.
You want to answer that question for Alan?
Yeah. What up, Alan? I think you've commented on some other streams before. They could get multiple draft picks for Zoo, but like then we don't have ass center. There's like Ben Simmons is probably gone. Like we don't have ass center at that point. I don't know. Maybe they can after he signs the extension, but what the Clippers are going to do is probably try and win on the margins a little bit. They already tried to trade for Malcolm Brogdon once. I don't know if y'all remember that. It went through and then got canceled because of a physical. So,
we know about that, Chuck. Laker fans know about the physical thing.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I do want to get. Okay, 1 sec.
Go ahead, Ben.
They're gonna try and win on the margins. They're going to try and get a point guard to help out James. They're going to try and get a cheap 4. Like, I hope Clippers fans like Gershon Yabusele, because that's probably who's they're going to sign. Like, they're kind of stuck, and they've told us they're stuck. So I think I don't think they'll win 50 games next year. I think a lot of good stuff happened that they won 50 games. They'll probably have a winning record.
Yeah.
And
you gotta bank on managing Kawhi through missing 30 to 35, 40 games. But here's the thing. I still thought the Clippers, I mean, Chaez and I talked about this, and I said it wouldn't shock me if the Clippers are a top 6 seed again this upcoming year. Chaez thought they would be a play-in team. I said they're going to be a pain in the ass team. And what I mean by that is they are going to be a tough out every single night. They're going to be those disappointing games that you guys lose to New Orleans without Zion Williamson, but they're going to be the great games where you beat Boston or you beat Oklahoma City or you beat Denver, or one of these top-tier teams. Unfortunately, Denver rallied together for you guys. They rallied together at the wrong time for the Clippers, the right time for them, but the wrong time for the Clippers. And I had a feeling that would happen the way they finished the regular season. However, that being said, the West is only going to get stronger. And if you're not getting better, Chuck, you know this, because the Lakers, we had this conversation about the Lakers last year not making any improvements. You'll be lucky to be top 6, perhaps upper tier playing. That's it. So I think you guys are in a similar boat, but maybe slightly better because I think the balance and depth of your team was better than the Lakers, the way we saw the Lakers last year or going into last year.
Yeah, because they have 3 great starters, right? Like for the regular season, just the regular season, obviously.
Right. Mm-hmm.
They have 3 great starters in Harden, Kawhi, and Zoo. Zoo is he plays, he doesn't miss games, which is probably the biggest asset you can be to this Clippers team is a starter and not miss games. So like James doesn't miss games, so they're going to be battling. They're going to hey, physically he doesn't miss games. Let's just say that.
Yeah, exactly. These are all great points. I want to take it in one more direction really quick, Chuck. And this is the biggest player that could be on the market. And he's not yet on the market, but rumors have it that he's possibly talking with John Horst and the rest of that Bucks brass about where he's going to land. I'm just going to ask you straight out. Where do you think that Giannis plays in the 25-26 season after this offseason?
Could he go to the Heat? Do they have enough to get him?
In my opinion, I'll say this. I'll preface it by he can go wherever he says.
Right.
If I want to go here, that's where he'll end up. If he decides to do that, other than make a list like Dame did, where there's 4 or 5 teams, and now those teams are bidding against each other for it.
I think because he obviously wants to win, right? Like he doesn't want to go to the Hornets, just like he doesn't want to do that. Sure. I thought there was a report, right, that he wants to stay in the Eastern Conference, or he would prefer to stay in the Eastern Conference, or something like that.
Chaez, you mentioned that, yeah.
Yep. Last week.
Damn.
Yeah.
I don't think he wants to go to Philly, and and Philly's screwed contract wise, like.
Unless they trade Maxey, but then you'd want to pair Giannis with Maxey. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Yeah, they'd want to try to use Paul George's contract and maybe a Jared McCain and whatever that number 3 pick gets, maybe. And even that is pushing it, Chuck. They're gonna want to gouge. And see, that's the thing. What Giannis has to realize, it's Kobe and Garnett in 07 again, where you cannot be super selective because those other teams are going to try to gut in order to, make sure that Giannis does not go to a desirable situation. That's the sticky part here, right?
I think I totally agree. I think it's Heat. The Magic are set. Like they need outside shooting more. I think it's maybe the Heat. Like I could see that fitting for some, because he's like kind of maniacal about his workouts and all that kind of like the culture, not Heat culture. I'm not trying to pretend that they're somehow, anointed for that type of thing, but like I think it maybe fits.
It does, but it's going to have to be Bam and Hero, right, Chaez?
At least Bam, and I mean, it depends. I'll say this,
because would they just blow it up? Like if Giannis is gone, if you're the Bucks,
once again, it's the same situation.
It depends on if he says I want to go to the Heat rather than the Heat just being on their list. If they're bidding against a team like San Antonio, who I think has the most assets of any team to be able to give up for him, if it's a bidding war, San Antonio I think wins it.
Damn.
In my opinion, it's 60% that he might stay, just given his loyalty and his persona and his demeanor for the past 12 years or whatever it's been. But I think that he more than likely stays. But if he does go, it'll probably be to either the Spurs, and for whatever reason, Masai Ujiri up in Toronto has always had some kind of hand in these situations.
Good call.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be. It wouldn't knock me out of my chair if somehow he was in the final 3 or the last couple teams probably vying for his services.
For sure. Yeah. And I would throw Houston in there too, just based on assets and contracts. They have the best of both worlds. They, to me, are a better version of the 07 Boston Celtics that got Kevin Garnett, where we could gut, but have enough there so that way Giannis still has a good, surrounding, supporting cast that we could still be a competitive team. But see, people forget Boston still had 2 stars there when they made that deal in 07. I don't know. I've been making this comp with Chaez the last couple of weeks that Giannis in 25, summer of 25, is Garnett in 07. It's very, very similar.
Yeah, that's a good call. And I like the two Texas team. I did like both of the hello balloons.
Happy birthday, Chuck.
Yeah, not for a minute. The Spurs one is interesting because they have everything they get.
Keldon Johnson.
The Thunder could lose their
Sohan.
minds. And really, if the Thunder win this year and they just decide, like, what if we just lost it and we just tried it and because they have the assets to trade for kind of
anybody.
Which is why I was wondering if they were going to throw their hat in the Jimmy Butler ring at the trade deadline. I was a little curious about that, but you know what? They decided to bet on themselves and the chemistry and the defense and all of that. And so far, it's gotten them to the NBA Finals. Only 2 losses, or I'm sorry, 2 losses in these playoffs. So
sadly enough, another gift the Clippers gave OKC was when they had to choose between John Wall and Isaiah Hartenstein. This has been reported. They chose John Wall instead of Isaiah Hartenstein. So yet another, you're welcome to the OKC Thunder from that lake.
Damn.
Yes.
Oh wow. I didn't know that. Well, you know what, Chuck, you've been so gracious with your time. Thank you so much for
having me.
For joining us. It's been great. Chris, I'll give you the floor before we.
Oh, no. Chuck, really appreciate you coming on. I'm glad to see you're continuing to do well. I always follow your podcasts and whatnot and all your clips. And I'm glad to see you're still doing the Lord's work, as they say, with your Clippers coverage. So keep up the great work on that. Anything you want to plug, man, but before we wrap it up?
Yeah, if you like the Clippers or if you like dip, because in the offseason we do dip recipes because there's nothing else going on, check out the Clips and Dip podcast.
I said drip, my bad. Clips and
You're
dip.
Fine.
Clips and dip.
Yeah, don't worry about it. YouTube.com/@Clippers Podcast. Find us on Twitter @Clippers Pod. We have to have y'all on for a big roundtable for the Clippers Lakers next year.
Would love to.
So we got to get that on the books.
Yeah,
I'd love to.
We'll have the purple and gold bandana with the blue and red bandana, and we're
raise it up.
It up.
Absolutely. Oh, that's awesome. Thank y'all so much for having me, you guys.
No
Appreciate
doubt.
it, Chuck.
See you next
doing
time.
your thing, man. Yeah, thanks again.
There we go.
Later.
Appreciate it. The great Chuck Mockler. Chaez, that was fun.
Great time, man. It's always good when we have these guests on and provide a different perspective and, bring up some little nuggets that we can bounce around. And it's just so amazing what this next offseason is going to look like. But Chris, I want to end the show on this topic because there's been a lot of talk, especially about Haliburton being overrated and him coming out and he's been probably the the MVP of the playoffs, in my opinion. If it's Shea, Jalen Brunson, and Haliburton, Haliburton has had bigger moments. Has he played as consistently as somebody like SGA or Jalen Brunson has in game to game? Probably not, but his peaks have been greater than anybody else's. And there's been a lot of talk on if he's a superstar or not. So I have to ask, who is a real superstar in today's NBA league, man? In my opinion, there's go ahead. I'll give you the floor and I'll tell you what I think.
Jokic, Giannis, Luka. I think Tatum is right there. I think SGA and Ant-Man, it's very close. They're getting there. But when we think superstar, we also have to think guys who transcend the game, right? Not just carry a franchise, not just win a bunch of awards or even championships, but transcend the game, right? Let me ask you, was Hakeem Olajuwon one of the greatest centers of all time? Would you call him a superstar? I mean, if he wasn't there, he was certainly right there. He was on the cusp of it. When we think superstar, we think Kobe, Jordan, Shaq, Larry, Magic, go back even earlier, Dr. J, guys who transcended the game where they're almost teetering on pop culture icons because you don't need to be a basketball fan or any sports fan to know who these guys are. They've heard the names. You know what I mean? LeBron James is another one. So yeah, who is a real NBA superstar? I think a lot of guys are on the cusp, like SGA, like Ant-Man. But I think those other three that I mentioned have proven that they are pretty much there. Jokic, Giannis, and Luka, and of course LeBron, and I would throw Steph in there. But I was talking about more guys like in their primes. So what are your thoughts?
There's a difference between star and superstar.
Correct.
And in my opinion, guys like Halliburton and Brunson and Donovan Mitchell and Anthony Edwards, those guys are all stars.
Yeah, I agree.
The superstars is Luka, Jokic, Giannis, LeBron, Steph, KD.
And I think Wemby's trending there, but still not there yet. Yeah,
not yet. But I hesitate to put guys like KD. Well, KD's a legend, really. But I'm talking like a superstar in today's game. I don't know as much, but like the real, like the actual definition of superstar: Kobe, Jordan, LeBron. That's really it, in my opinion. In the absolute true form of superstar, like Kareem wasn't a superstar. In my opinion.
I think Magic, Larry, and Dr. J were, in my opinion. I think
Magic, Larry, and Dr. J.
Yeah, Dr. J.
Magic, Larry, and Dr. J. Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Magic, Larry, Dr. J. Yes, we're all superstars.
70s and 80s.
No. Was Duncan a superstar? No.
He was a star.
As great as he was, Allen Iverson, that was a superstar.
Kevin Garnett too, superstar. I think he was there.
Superstar. So in today's league, like
Pierce, Ray Allen, Patrick Ewing, Karl Malone, John Stockton, Reggie, tier 2. Stars, very good, but not superstars. I'm sorry. I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah. That's exactly right. So I just wanted to have that quick discussion between the different definition between stars and superstars. Like the superstars are the ones that are going to go to the Hall of Fame. The stars are the ones that are going to end up probably. You can still end up in the Hall of Fame as a star, but like there's a certain level to it. So, in my opinion, the true superstars in today's game: LeBron, Steph, KD, Luka, Giannis, Jokic.
I like your points. I just want to push back on that one. I think what you meant to say, they're first ballot, hands down Hall of Famers that you don't really have to think twice about. I think that's where you meant to go. Those other guys that I mentioned were all Hall of Famers, all had great individual accomplishments. They just didn't have the multiple championships like some of the other guys that we've mentioned, which, by the way, Giannis and some of these other – Kobe barely top 15. Why do you have to do that to my guy right here? Or me? I mean, Jesus Christ.
We appreciate you listening to Old Dirty Dasher, but like –
yeah.
Come on, man. We can't even talk ball with you. I'm only putting it on here to shame you because you should be ashamed for even writing this. But
this dude doesn't know what he's talking about. Is that me or Chaz or both of us?
I don't know.
It's probably both of us. But what I also think, and you didn't really respond to my comment about this, transcending the game, not just having success on the court and winning championships and MVPs and all-star appearances or even, Olympic gold medals. But when you become an icon that transcends the game like Jordan did, when you become someone like, for example, Snoop Dogg, just going to the music side. Snoop Dogg has transcended hip hop and rap music, right? He is now a pop culture icon. That's where I'm going with that. There are people who transcend their particular field and their particular genre to be recognized by people who are not fans of that particular music or genre or field. That's why I'm saying any person could recognize Michael Jordan without actually ever watching a Chicago Bulls game. And that's what I was talking about. That's, to me, how I define superstar to star. Anyway, so I just wanted to get that back to you. And I wanted to get your comment on that. Am I reaching, or is that true?
No, that's true. You got to be able to transcend the game in some way. That's why a player like Allen Iverson, who's only been in the finals once and never, sniffed a ring that had an MVP, is a superstar because he transcended the game,
There you go.
especially with the way that he, had guys, the way they played the game, the way they talked about him, the way they wore the headband, wore the sleeve. I know I did when I was
Yeah.
playing the game at 12 years old. So um,
And he
he's
was tatted.
definitely,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely a superstar. So just wanted to get into that before we wrap the show up. We appreciate especially you, old Dirty Dasher. We appreciate you, TJ Leaf. We appreciate you, Forgotten Locale. Everybody watching the show, you guys know where to get at us. We're here every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific. Tap in with us. You guys know where to follow me on Instagram, on Twitter at Chaez Chris. Where can they follow you, my man?
You could follow me on Twitter at Chris_Camelo. Also on Instagram, CCamelo1. Follow us at The Outlet Forum on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. We appreciate all comments, all views, and everything like that. Even when you're talking smack about my co-host over here, old Dirty Dasher. Not appreciated, but we do appreciate the comments because you know what? I could be wrong. He could be wrong. You could be wrong. It's all an opinion. And we're just giving you a little bit of our insight and going from there. And by the way, thank you to our guest, Chuck Mockler. Be sure to follow him at Chuck Mockler on Twitter and the Clips and Dip, not Drip, Clips and Dip podcast. My apologies on that, Chuck. I feel terrible. I screwed that up.
All good. We appreciate you guys tapping, and we'll see you guys next week where we'll be talking about the NBA Finals and gearing up for that matchup the next night on Thursday, June 5th. Until next Wednesday, we'll see you then. Peace.